चतुर्मुखसमारम्भं वाग्भटाचार्यमध्यमम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तं वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। रागादिरोगान् सततानुषक्तानशेषकाय प्रसृतानशेषन् औत्सुक्यमोहारदिदाञ्जघान यो पूर्ववैद्याय नमोऽस्तु तस्मै। Coming to the points what we were discussing earlier, we saw that the avasthapaga of ahara, the first order, second order, and the third order, and in the madhura rasa pradhana, amla rasa pradhana, and kadu rasa pradhana, which are transient stages, but they are very influential. Because as we mentioned in one of our earlier sessions, the Sharira Kalpana and the Sharira Kalpana, especially more specifically the Sharira Kalpana in Ayurveda, is primarily explained based on how the Agni is working, how the system is capable of processing ahara. Processing, the capacity to process ahara is the fundamental requirement to survive. So it is assumed that all other physiological events, body events happening are in tune with this facility, how the body is processing the ahara to make its dhatus. So this concept of avasthapaga is very crucial, even though we may not be considering it as though that serious many a times. It is very important. It is a very serious event. When that stages are not happening properly, we will be in trouble. So in order to understand what is happening in any other parts, any other deha desha, we should primarily understand what is happening in the koshta. That is why we have a very famous understanding that udaram vyadhi mandiram. So this is very important. So we were seeing some of the transient changes happening in the koshta called avasthapaga, and how the changes happening in the koshta, in the core, is going to reflect in the entire body, how this is going to be a representation of what is happening in the other parts, and also the changes happening in the other parts are going to be a representation of what is the status inside in the koshta, in the agnisthana specifically. That is what we were seeing in our previous session. Now, and we also made a statement that three forms of kleda can be there in the Sharira: Madhura Rasa Kleda, Amla Rasa Kleda, and Kadu Rasa Kleda. And we find some sort of a preset shift happening as far as this status of Kleda is concerned. In the Avasthapaga, It is preset in such a way that first Madhura, then Amla, then Kadu. But what is happening inside, that we have to understand slowly later. Now, these three sets of kleda that can happen or that can exist in Sharira, Madhura kleda, Amla kleda, and Kadu kleda, actually they represent the three sets of Bhuda combinations, which we have already seen. Jala, Prithvi, then next is an Agni predominant. I would like to specify it in a very finer sense. That is Jala, Prithvi, Agni predominant. And then coming to the third phase, it is about Agni Vayu predominant. That is how the transition is taking place. Of course, when we are asked to say about very specific bit, we will say that, okay, Jala, Prithvi, Agni, Vayu, Akasha. These are the three combinations. But when we are seeing this in connection with the Avastha Bhaga, what is happening, Jala, Prithvi, Agni, Agni, Vayu, Akasha. So that is how the transition is taking place. And then when we claim that this is Madhura, Amla, and Kadu, of course there is a friction. There is a friction because this is not going to match exactly with the combinations of the Bhuda predominance of rasas as we learn in the conventional sense from the textbooks. Kshmambho Agni Kshmambute Jaghavayu Agni Anilago Nilaihi Dvayolbanaihi. True, that is correct. Or that is one way of seeing it. But you cannot cut this as if you are cutting a cake and giving this to different people. In a living platform, that sort of clear-cut separations, up to this, you, then me, then he, that is not practical and not feasible. So that is why I'm saying that there is a sort of transitional event. Now, why it is not so? We will come to these finer aspects later. Now we assume like this. Now, we also found that the three types of kledas, as far as the Avasthapaga is concerned, dominate in a peculiar manner, which I already explained. Madhura first, Amla second, and Kadu third. So, does it mean that all the kleda in the Sharira, because we have already seen that the changes in the body is a representation of the changes happening in the Koshtha. The Koshtha is going through the Avasthapaga. So we find that Madhura first, Amla second, Kadu third. So there is a question, does it mean that all the kleda in the Sharira is going to show this sort of a shift completely? When there is a Madhura dominance in the Koshtha, that Madhura dominance is going to be reflected in the Sharira Kleda. But the question is, at that point of time, do you mean that the entire Kleda in the Sharira will be showing a shift so that there is Madhura only? And in the second, when Amla dominates, does it mean that all the Sharira Kleda will become Amla Kleda? That need not be the case. There need not be a complete change, but it is all about dominance. In the first phase, the Madhura Kleda dominates. In the second phase, Amla Kleda dominates. And in the third phase, Kadurasa Kleda dominates. It is not a total change that when the Madhura dominates, there is no Kadu and Amla at all. That is not the case. So when one form of Kleda is dominating, the other two are still there. For example, when Madhura Kleda is high, there are Amla and Kadu types of the Kleda in the Sharira present and still functional. That also should be very seriously considered and understood. Now, we were discussing about Avasthapaka. And in the next level, what is happening? The Sara is formed. Then it is processed by Bhudagnis. Then the final transformation comes. It is converted to Rasadhatu. Converted to Rasadhatu. This Rasadhatu formed from an ahara, whatever the ahara is a dravya. Is a dravya, a substance made out of obviously Panchabhutas. Ahara, ahara pachana, avasthapagas, ahara sara, bhudagnipaga. Then in one twist, it is becoming rasadhadu, which is a new substance made out of Panchabhutas. Like any other Karya Dravya. But this is a special type of Dravya. Rasadhadu is a special type of Dravya. What is the speciality? This Rasadhadu has no sort of kevala swatva or sort of absolute existence. Of course, I am not going to the philosophical reflections of the word kevala or absolute. I will explain what I mean. I am saying that it has no kevala swatva or absolute existence because it is a sort of a conditional dravya. It is formed or a product which is formed in a living body only. You may be able to make something which is similar to ahara sara and make a perfect bhautika match with that. But transforming into a part of the sharira as rasadhadu, it is possible within that particular environment only. So it is a product formed in a living body and it is not supposed to exist outside a living body. Why these ideas are discussed or what is the relevance? Relevance is that for an observer or for an examiner, it is very hard to examine the physical characteristics of rasadhadu by pratyaksha pariksha because it does not exist outside a living body. And we all already know that once formed, it is not going to exist freely. Of course, no dhatu is going to exist freely, but it is immediately go to the matrix, the pool from which the next level of transformations are happening continuously. The body that way is a big manufacturing plant, a processing plant. So it is very, very difficult, very hard to understand the physical characteristics of the rasadhatu by pratyaksha pariksha. So when pratyaksha pariksha is not possible, we have to gather maximum information about it and go and rely upon anumana pariksha. The pramanam will be on, next is anumana pramanam. How to draw valid anumana from this? Karmabhistvanumiyande. Karmabhistvanumiyande nana dravyashraya gunaha. So it is possible by observing the karmas of the dravya. And when we say that karma, in Ayurveda generally, the word karma represents the karmas generated in the human body. It is so human-centric that way. So the gunas of rasadhatu is understood by anumana pariksha, the anumana drawn by observing the karmas of rasadhatu in sharira. The karmas are primarily of three types. That is, influencing the three doshas by increasing the three sets of Buddha combinations. Increasing the three sets of Buddha combinations. Nourishing them. Prithvi, Jala, Agni, Vayu, Akasha. So when these observations are used to understand the characteristics of rasadhatu, the first consideration, we have mentioned the three primary things happening in the body. That is to accumulate, to transform, to distribute. And when we draw some inputs from the experiences of avasthapaga, how the rasadhatu is going to influence the sharira, and when we try to make some understanding about the characteristics of rasadhatu, we have to think about how rasadhatu is going to influence the shadrasas in the sharira kleda. And when we connect this with the avasthapaga, we saw that Madhura, Amla and Kadu, these three, only these three are taken into consideration. So what happens? In effect, what comes as a conclusion is that out of the shadrasas, only three are accommodated well in the rasadhatu. What is happening to the remaining three? That is very interesting. I'm not going to that right away because of the fear of getting distracted. So, rasadhatu accommodates three rasas, Madhura, Amla and Kadu. And all these three rasas are present in the rasa dhadu formed from any food. Let it be masala dosa, let it be chicken biryani, let it be something else. But based on the food stuff, definitely there may be changes in their dominance. These are not casual statements. Be very, very careful. According to the stuff we eat, there can be changes in the predominant rasas in the rasadhadu. Out of the three, obviously, Madhura, Amla, and Kadu. Now, moving further forward, we have already seen that how rasa and kleda are related. And we were using the words Madhura kleda, Amla kleda, etc. Madhura kleda means that share within the pool of kleda, which is the contribution of rasadhadu with madhura as its assumed rasa. These are all assumptions. Madhura kleda means that share in the pool of kleda in sharira, which is a contribution of rasadhadu with madhura as its dominant rasa. Similarly, we should understand that amla kleda means the contribution of rasadhadu with amla as its assumed dominant rasa. Similarly, we have to understand kadu kleda as well. And based on what we have seen, it is possible to propose that any dravya which is processed by Jadharagni is destined to get labeled as having one of the three rasas as its predominant rasa by the time it is a part of the sharira. Any dravya which is processed by Jadharagni properly, all things are to be underlined. Any dravya processed by Jadharagni properly will get a label of one of these three rasas as its predominant rasa, either as Madhura rasa or as Amla rasa or as Kadu rasa. Or there may be mixing up as well. In a complex meal, there can be complex presentations, but still it is possible to separate them and use them to nourish the three different components of the kleda, Madhura kleda, Amla kleda, and Kadurasa kleda. And as we mentioned earlier, this is based on the threefold division of the Panchabhutas in Sharira, and thus based on the three doshas. And now, when I say up to this, everybody will be able to relate this concept with the idea of vipaka, which we learn in Dravyad Vijnaniya. Tridha vipago dravyasya swadvamlakadugatmakaha जाढरेण अग्निना योगाद यदुदेदि रसांदरम रसानां परिणामांदे सविपाक इति स्मृतः. So it is again a purely Ayurvedic concept that any dravya consumed, processed by Jadharagni properly will be turning out to get labeled as either Madhura or Amla or Kadu, and based on large studies, observations, Anumana, there is a fixed pattern in which a particular dravya is going to work in a sharira, and that is the principle called vipaka of a dravya. When we say that, okay, Shundhi is Madhura Vipaka, Shundhi, after getting all those things of Jadhara Agnipaga and all the going through the Avastha Pagas, and at the end of the day, when it is going to be a part of the Kleda in the Sharira, it is going to contribute to the Madhura Rasa Kleda in the Sharira. Even though its rasa is kadu, it is going to contribute to it is getting rearranged in such a way that it has got a samanada with the madhura rasa kleda in the sharira, and it is going to nourish it. So this is how Loka and Purusha. Vipaka is a very crucial link in the connection between Loka and Purusha. So I think when these ideas are understood, then only we will understand the extolled idea of Loka Purusha Samanata, or the relation between Loka Purusha in a very subtle sense. It is one crucial connecting link, how one particular dravya is going to nourish the kleda of the sharira. That idea is there behind the idea of vipaka. So now, again, I think we have divorced three rasas: Lavana Kleda, Lavana Rasa, Tikta Rasa, and Kashaya Rasa. And we do not find the possibilities of Lavana Kleda, Tikta Kleda, and Kashaya Kleda in these descriptions what we made so far. What happens to them? They may be present in the Rasadhadu, or theoretically, there is every possibility that these three rasas are also manifested in the rasadhadu, but they are not considered. Why? That we have to find more. Because if I go to those explanations fully, we will switch over completely to Dravya Guna Vijnanam. Definitely that is very crucial, because without understanding Dravya Guna Vijnanam properly, we cannot understand the Shariram. That is definitely that is an important point, but for the time being, at least, I am not going to it. We will, I think, see a very short portion we will discuss. See, as I mentioned earlier, the purpose of eating food is to provide the materials for the growth and maintenance of Sharira. That is the very purpose of eating. And we have seen that there are three fundamental events happening in the Sharira. One is accumulation of the materials needed for growth, which we grossly call as Dhatu Poshana. First. Second, transformation of materials formed from one state to the next, continuously and uninterruptedly, which are coming under the Paga Parinama sector. And the third is the transportation of the accumulated transformed materials to different places based on a feedback mechanism of Sharira, where a system of Srotasas are operational. Jala Prithvi combination of Bhutas facilitate the first, Agni the second, and Vayu Akasha the third. Up to this we have seen multiple times. I may not be able to explain this connection of Vipaka, and also the why the Lavana, Tikta, Kadu, so Tikta, Kashaya are not considered at this point. Because I think 30 minutes are not sufficient for, and when we come to the core idea, the curtain falls. So that is a big issue. But unfortunately, in the morning hours, we cannot use more than 30 minutes. What I will do is I will try my level best not to skip any sessions. So now I think I have to stop here. I will share the video, the audio immediately, if possible, today itself, so that you can keep in touch with the ideas and so that we can have an uninterrupted movement to the next session, next Thursday. So I hope some idea is conveyed based on what we have discussed so far, which definitely needs a lot of uh, extra work. But definitely we will discuss a few of them in our next session. Here I am stopping. Thank you very much. If something else is to be discussed in connection with what we have presented so far, please post it in the chat box. Otherwise, we will wind up. No ideas posted in the chat box. That means either I have made things complicated sufficiently, or everything is communicated properly. Anyway, Bhishayam sadhuvrittanaam bhadramagamashaalinam abhyastakarmanam bhadram bhadram bhadrabhilashinam. Thank you very much once again. See you next Thursday.